welcome
to the Bar Book Club month number 2, just 12th Night.
12th Night.
By our man
William Shakespeare.
And this was a special month because he had his birthday, which is also, if I'm not mistaken, his death day. The guy died on.
It is, yes. Yeah, they don't know the approximate days of both of those, but like,
yeah, but that's
they're estimated to be around the same day.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Originally, when I was at school, since I was like the head of the Shakespeare Club, we were gonna do this program with one of my professors, and we were gonna have a day of reading sonnets on his birthday, and we were gonna read all of the sonnets. And then if you came in, if you read a sonnet, then you would get a shirt with Shakespeare on it. So it's very sad that this didn't work out.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, because that would have been really fun. But, you know, maybe next year we'll be able to do it.
Yeah, not to put like a ton of stock in this, but my tarot cards never been wrong. I've never done a reading that didn't pan out, and they said by July things will be looking good. So
nice.
I should not do this anymore because it's also like now the white power sign. So I should stop, but it's such like an instinct to do that. Mm-hmm. Do you know that's white power now?
No.
It's like W and then a P.
Oh, no, yeah. I didn't know that.
I mean, they usually do it like this, but
I just think this is like, okay.
Yeah, that's what I do. But then people, you know, they got to ruin everything.
Strange.
My dad was like, is the air conditioning working in your room? It sure is. Okay, so
Bridget, 12th Night.
Bridget's going to lead the discussion.
Yeah, so I thought first we just talk about our general thoughts. I really enjoyed this. Like, I don't think it's like my favorite by any means of any of his plays, but I thought it was fun, and like seeing the back and forth between some of the characters was interesting.
Yeah, I definitely, it's one of the ones, and I would guess based on this that this is kind of how his comedies work, is with his dramas and his histories, like I can read them still like it's a book and it not matter. But this I found, like, when I just read it, I was like, I don't like this. And then when we read it all together, it was different, and I completely liked it because I think the comedies, it helps to have them heard. So I'm glad that we do the reading. And then it was, you know, there's only 5 of us doing the reading. So then when we watched the adaptation, then I was like, oh, I really like this. This is really fun. Yeah, I think the comedies
I think it's a lot better to see the comedies acted out, because then you can actually see like the interpretation of people who have spent a lot of time on it, because that way, like oh, that's what they mean. Because like getting across what they're saying through just like reading the text is a lot different from like watching someone deliver the line. Because like
like I remember when the first like inappropriate joke hit, that was David had it. Where it was David, and then I think it was like Kat speaking opposite David. Kat says something about David's hair, and they're like, "What's wrong with my hair?" And then Kat's like, "Nothing. I hope it'll be caught between a woman's eyes one day." And I remember we all were like, "Oh, like it's that kind of show." Yeah. So it's a
lot better to read, like to hear the voices.
Yeah, I liked it much better when we were all acting it out on the live stream, and then I really liked it when we saw it. When I just was reading it, I was like, oh, I'm not vibing with this. So it was interesting, because when I read Julius Caesar, I didn't have that. I was fine just reading it. So
yeah, I think even with Julius Caesar, like it's better to see it performed, but like you can understand it more like reading it. Yeah, but I think a lot of the stuff with like the comedies, it's like the characters' interactions with each other can be hard to grasp.
Well, in
my mind, I did not get the relationship of like the 3 who are like the funny,
the friends.
That wasn't really as like, my brain didn't comprehend it as well. And then like I saw them together like in the film, and I was like,
it was I definitely think also because the jokes are so of the time, like the jokes aren't timeless for the most part. Like a lot of them depended on that era, and so like hearing people say it out loud, I say that era, but like the film clearly didn't take place during the Renaissance, but it still took place in the past. That was something I thought was interesting about the film too, that it was set in like this vaguely 19th or 18th century time. And people were not still talking like that in that time period.
It's interesting when they just set it in a different time, and then it's like, And here's all the original Shakespearean. And
Yeah, that's what I always think. It's like, I think it's fine when it's just like vaguely out of time when you see it live. Like I've definitely seen it live where everyone's just kind of wearing like nondescript pants and clothes and shit and like hat, like, you know what I mean? But I'm either commit to its no time or set it in the Renaissance or whatever time. Like that'd be like if you just set Macbeth in like the 1910s and we're like, but we're still gonna talk like this. That was one thing that threw me at first about the film, is that it was so clearly based on their clothes and their houses and everything supposed to be like the early 1800s or the late 1700s, and I was like, no one was talking like this still.
I mean, I can forgive it a little bit, because like when I was like directing my play, like I had that like issue of what to keep and like what to take out and like how to change it and everything. So like
you did was like a really obvious deviation, because you had it, you did Taming of the Shrew and you set it in like a 50s era.
Yeah,
I think it's different if you choose to set it in a purposely modern era, because then it's like reverse anachronistic. Anachronistic is like where you talk like it's modern times in the past, which is funny, and so then it's even more ironic to switch it. But to just still have it in the past, but just not the correct past, is always a weird choice for me. And it's not the first time some adaptation did that with Shakespeare. And I always like Romeo and Juliet, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio, like set in modern times, but they're keeping the original Shakespeare. Like something like that works where you're like, oh, it's right now, but we're still going to talk in the past. Yeah, it'd be like 1800s, but we're going to keep that Renaissance English going.
Yeah, that was more of like the commentary. If it's
that was the only thing that threw me from the film at first when it started. I was like, we're just picking a really definitive time period here, I see.
Yeah.
But
I thought the film did a good job of like showing the relationships between the characters. Like you understood why, like, why she felt that way about both of them, and like you could see the chemistry.
Hilarious. The film was so funny, and it was so for the bisexuals. Like I think well, we can just go into characters because that was the next thing you had. So I think Duke, well, like there's a lot of theories that Shakespeare was bi, and like he was. Like there's like a lot of letters that he wrote to this guy, I don't remember his name, and people were like, is that thing where they're like, they were pals, and it's like, no. And like there's so many bisexual undertones in so many of his shows, and in this, especially once we saw the film, and it didn't come across as much when I read it, but when we saw the movie, is like Duke still thinks that Viola is the guy when he falls in love with him. And like bisexuals, the whole thing is like you fall in love regardless of gender, but to think you're falling in love with a man is still bisexual, because it was like he still would have been attracted to Viola even if he never found out that Viola was a woman, because he wasn't thinking of her that way. And so when they like almost made out in that one scene, I was like,
really were real close, and I was like,
well, and the thing is like again, the way I think that proves that is because Olivia was immediately not attracted to Viola when she realized she was a girl. She was just like, oh, and I've gained a sister. Like that attraction was gone. Where Duke was still there for it, and he had been for it.
He was like, great, I love you still.
He's like, oh God, thank you. It's more culturally acceptable now. like I'm sorry, like you don't just have your pal come in and help you bathe. Like that's not a.
See, I was just
because it wasn't uncommon for people in the past, like if they were bathing, to have like their servant there.
Yeah, but like she was so much like he wasn't.
But not your fucking soldier. Like
like not the person you go send on letters.
And it was also more common for just women to have help bathing, because men didn't really wash their hair as much and everything. But yeah, you don't just call in like your general to help you. That's you just almost
especially
make out
like
far.
Yeah, you'd call just like your everyday servant, which was not her.
Call like a chambermaid or something. I love the fool.
The fool was really, I think, the main character. I think that's
I think that was.
You don't think it when you're like reading it and everything, but then you see how involved he is in the adaptation when you're actually seeing his character, and you're like, he's in like every scene. He's just there, and they're like, hey man, and they're like.
I feel like the fool is the audience character. Like that's our way into witnessing.
Where we're all like, what's happening here? And he's like, what's happening?
Well, and the fool breaks the fourth wall at the end, and like Shakespeare plays are pretty known to like break the fourth wall. The only thing I thought
in Henry the Fourth or Fifth, Henry the Fifth is the one I read. There's I don't know his name. The guy who I think it might.
I haven't read it, so
I don't know. But there's like this character. He starts the play. It might just be like the chorus. The chorus. That's it. And he just immediately speaks to the audience. And in one of the versions, either the Kenneth Branagh or the Laurence Olivier, I think. Wow, I'm just coming up with these names on the spot. But
I'm really just figuring this out.
The Laurence Olivier version, it's like there's this whole battle going on, and then the chorus comes in, and he's just running straight through the battle. It's like that scene in 1917 when the guy is like running, and like all the it's just like that. The chorus is just like running, and he's like talking to the camera. He's like, "Oh my god, blah 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 blah."
The only thing, like, again, like, I'm really glad we watched the adaptation, but the thing that I don't think works in adaptations is when the characters' soliloquies are still spoken.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward because
no one would talk out loud like that to themselves. Like Viola and Olivia were just constantly like giving huge speeches to themselves, and that's real different when you're doing that on stage because, like, that's the only way you're gonna get that across. But in the movie, as soon as Olivia started like speaking to herself like that, I'm like. Yeah. No one is going to stand alone in their garden and talk through their thoughts like that.
Yeah, there's definitely times when like you could pull it off if it was just like a quick like thought, like
we
need to focus here and think about it.
Yeah, with like one thought, but I wouldn't be
they'd have like 20 lines and they'd be like, oh, and like,
all right, I'm gonna need a voiceover here, but
yeah, but also then it's like, do you want to overuse the voiceover? Because sometimes that becomes a cliche. I mean, like. In that case, I think it could be good, but then they'd have to be doing something interesting.
Well, I also feel like in a movie, you wouldn't even need it as much because you're right up by their face. So, like, their thoughts are coming across. It's different than stage acting. When I said soliloquy, my brain immediately just thought of in Beetlejuice, where he's like, that was a soliloquy. So you're the one who's being rude.
Yeah.
That's like, or the muses and Hercules, how they're like always there. It's that's an interesting trope Shakespeare always has, is someone always breaks the fourth wall. So like at the end when the fool breaks the fourth wall, I think it's interesting because it hadn't been broken.
Throughout the play.
Whereas like Romeo and Juliet, they walk out and they're like, "What's up? They're gonna die."
Like, so they're gonna die, but here we go. We're gonna go back and again.
Preface everybody.
Yeah.
I loved the fool. I loved how he was played in the movie.
I thought he was really good.
He was great. I loved the ending where the music cut in. That was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny also that there's that scene where he dresses up as like the priest, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And you were like, who's this guy? And I was like, that's...
Yeah, he really passed it
off. He really, really pulled off.
I really think it's interesting. Like, I don't feel like we, as Shakespearean fans, talk about enough that, okay, Viola and Duke, we are to presume have known each other for months. Like, this play is happening over the course of months. Which, like, all right, back in the day, that's a sturdy basis for a marriage. I've known people now who, like, know each other for only a few months, get married. Okay, they're acting like at the end, like, oh, like Viola and her brother Sebastian have, like, found their love. Sebastian met her that day. And
well, I guess what they decided was, you're not that different from your sister. You're twins.
I know, it's just so funny because the play is supposed to be like, but it's just so funny too. Is that Olivia, like, was like
Olivia's just immediately like, we're married.
But I just thought it was interesting that, like, I can get her sticking with it because, like, oh, she figured they were similar, but like,
yeah, because they were immediately in love. But him just coming in and being like.
He was like, she was calling him a different name and was like making out with him, which was like crazy forward for the time. And then was like, will you come marry me like right now? And he did. Yeah. And he's like, my love, like that's hilarious to me. I'm like, how long had it been since he had sex or something that he was just like, I mean, to be fair, it was clear she was really wealthy because that was her estate. So I guess if some really hot wealthy girl is just like, hey, you want to have sex and get married? And you're some poor sailor who's lost everything being like, yeah, my name is not that, but whatever.
Yeah, I
You
guess.
have to go by Cicero the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's strange to think about. Like, yeah, because like he just met her and he was like, "Well, you like me, so sure."
Yeah, he was very much just like, I'll go with the flow. Like, he didn't even begin to question like what was going on. Like he
wasn't like, "Who's Cicero?"
Like he was
He was just
questioning.
like, "Yep, that's me."
He was questioning when everyone was getting mad at him, like, what's up? But then when she was like, oh my God, my love, like, come marry me, he was like, sure. He's like,
no doubt.
I don't care why that's happening, but
yeah,
what could go wrong?
Which is interesting.
Yeah, it's always funny to think about because, like, at the end, they play it up like everyone found their love because Mariah and I'm blanking on his name, but they go off together and like, okay. And, but yeah, that one's just funny to me.
Yeah, I thought that it was also, it was just interesting to see. Because also, I think we talked about this in my Shakespeare class, but a lot of what Shakespeare likes to do is take a lot of the characters in comedies, and at the beginning, they're all like broken apart, and in the end, they all come together nicely. And not necessarily that they get married, like generally the end in marriages is what like is the thought.
The Shakespeare play
the marriages.
Or a marriage is like the Shakespeare play ends in like a mass death or a marriage, like. Yeah, so in the show we did sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, in the show, in the reading we did, we all read A Million Parts, obviously. Shakespeare's like, how many characters can be in this?
50?
Your main role was Viola, and my main role was Mariah, whom I pronounced as Maria the whole time because thought that's what it was. My dad has just said, do you like cherry Coke? Yes. I don't understand why he's asking, but so you want to talk about Viola and then I'll talk about Mariah?
Yeah, it was interesting to like speak from her perspective and like to like go on the journey where like she's finding all these people and like she's like finding love, but also like I don't know, we didn't really, I feel like, know the drama that had gone down at the beginning. So,
I feel like Shakespeare plays are always like, this wild thing happened off stage right before this began. And it's like, why didn't you show that?
Yeah, and it's like, so I feel like we played that a lot more comedically than like seeing it on the screen. I was like, oh, they have a lot happening here.
I to this day don't quite get why she went and dressed in drag. Like, I still don't quite get it.
Yeah. I guess we just gotta accept it.
They're kind of like, yeah, she needs to dress like a dude and work for the Duke. And it's like, okay, but why?
Yeah.
I guess, like,
it's not super explained,
but I think like a better, higher paying job than.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm sure it was hard for a single woman to get a job. And back then, your brother would technically own you if you're a woman, like, whatever man you were connected to. So I guess that was safer for her. But they don't make that super clear. And when I was reading it especially, I was like, wait, why is... Because all I kept thinking was of She's the Man. And I know why she does it in She's the Man. I don't even like that movie, but that's all I kept thinking of. I was like, well, she does it to play soccer. So what's the reason here?
Where's the soccer?
It's like, there's a shocking lack of soccer in this play, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah, I thought it was good though, because you got to like see the evolving relationship. Even like when we were reading through it, I thought it was fun to see like all of us go back and forth with the characters and to like see like Mariah and the Dukes, and then like to see Orsino and Viola and Olivia, like those like relationships form is really interesting. And see how they play out.
She was really funny, and she's just
and like the way that they like mess with each other. And you can like, see the connections, but also understand like where the characters are coming from.
Viola also just like dropped like super obvious hints that she was a girl. One was
like,
picking up on it.
I'm a girl, and then she was like, "Oh, but I'm so in love. I'm so sad. You don't."
He was like, "No other woman will have my heart but myself." And I'm like, "Okay, somebody catch on."
Yeah, and then when she says like, "I am all my brothers and sisters,"
I'm like, "Hey, everybody, pay the fuck attention." you have plot next is like to this. I still think it's funny that at the end it's like no one had ever seen a twin before. They were
like, whoa.
And then when they're mixing them up, I'm like, listen, I get that these actors we were watching in the movie, and like if you get actors on stage, like I get like obviously they're not really twins, and so my thing is still fraternal opposite sex twins are still going to look significantly different, even if one gets a haircut. So even if Viola was easily passing for a guy, once Sebastian their voices sounded very different, and I was like,
once they were together, it's like, how can you not see?
And like even like I could see if you were running up and like, you know, they were dressed similar and you were like running up to Sebastian or Viola and being like, oh, that's so and so. But then once you saw them, being like, oh, that's just someone who looks a lot like them.
Yeah.
The fact that everyone was like 100% like Viola's wearing a fake mustache, and these people can't catch on.
I just imagined it kind of like, have you seen Victorious? Yeah, there's the play that they do.
I was just thinking about that.
It's like Andre and Beck pretend to be siblings, and it's like, oh, they're identical twins. How can you ever tell them apart?
Oh gosh darn narcoleptic, I can't tell my sons apart. She goes, this is how it's not your fault. They're identical. Look at them. And then it's just Andre. I was thinking of that the whole time.
Yeah, where it's like,
even in real life though, even if like those were.
I debated doing this play for my school, and I was like, it's too complicated. I can't. Because I was like, I can't deal with like the changing clothes and stuff. But like, I think if I did
everyone falls in love with the wrong person trope is a lot to get right. Like,
yeah. And then there's like that choice of, do you actually try to get people who like look similar, or do you just go?
I definitely think for a stage production, it's fun. It's even funnier if they
don't make anything alike.
If you purposely don't make them look similar. But in a movie, I'm like. But the thing is,
in a movie, like get the same actor to play the same character.
Even if they look similar, even if we got real twins, if one's a guy and one's a girl, and then at the end though, the fact that they saw them at the end, the fact that everyone still lost their minds. They're like, what? I'm like, have you never seen twins? And the fact that he didn't even recognize Viola right away, I was like,
I was like,
twin. You don't know what she looks like. She got a haircut. Like that's all it happened.
Like, yeah, because like especially since she like did that to look more like him, it's like, don't you think you would recognize yourself?
You know what I always thought was weird too is that she didn't just use her brother's name.
That's what I was gonna bring that up, because I was like, why doesn't she just use Sebastian's name? And then if he like. Then it would make more sense also when he like comes in and she's like, Sebastian, and he's like, yes, that is me. Let's get married.
Like, yeah, the confusion definitely would have been, but and she thought he was dead, so just use his name. And like,
that's what I thought was weird as well. Because while I was watching, I was like, that could be a lot easier for her, but I guess that's like too much memories or something.
I also always think with like I have this like with this kind of plot line of like the girl dresses as a boy, like I always hate when people do it in a modern setting. Like I told you I was reading Sky Without Stars and it's in the future and a girl's trying to do it, and I'm like, the only reason this works is if you set it in a time period where like it was legit illegal for women to wear pants, and like women had to have long hair and stuff, because then literally all it took to fool anyone was a haircut and pants. And that's what I always think is funny, is that literally all Viola did was get a fucking haircut, and they were like, oh, it's a man. Whereas like to us nowadays, we'd be like, yeah, that's probably not women can't have haircuts.
Yeah, it's like in I just read Orlando by Virginia Woolf, and I know you're gonna read that soon, but
I am,
like there's this whole sequence where Orlando turns from a man to a woman, and as a woman, she dresses up in all of her old male clothes. And then she like goes out and then like talks to people and like explores as a man. And then everyone's like, that's a man wearing pants. And then she'd put on like dresses, and then they'd be like, oh, it's a woman. Yeah. So like, it's changed, but it works because it's like in a time period where it's expected.
Nowadays, gender is so fluid nowadays, and people like, you know, it's like most like, we're obviously both like cis women who are very female presenting, but you know, like, there's, you know, non-binary people where, you know, you don't want to guess their gender, which is why like the cross-dressing plot never works in modern settings. And like, I hate it in modern settings. Like that's one of the things I thought was so fucking stupid about She's the Man, is I was like, this could not be more obvious that she's not a guy. Like she didn't. Like again, like
I think it works really well in like historical fiction. It's like, oh, it's a fun thing to explore. But like after women can wear pants,
because then she's the man. I'm like, she just looks like she got a haircut. Like, how is this fooling everyone that thinks she's a guy?
Yeah.
Like, but that's the thing. Yes, I hate it for nowadays plots, but in this, it's and that's I think it makes it even. I think that's where it's even funnier once the play ages, because. You know, and it's funny to think of when this was first performed, because this would have been performed by all guys.
Yeah.
The idea of having a male actor who's like a woman who then has to pretend to be a guy, but it's played by a guy. Like, that's that's funny. My dad didn't know that Shakespeare plays were originally played by all guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when I told him we were doing it last month, I was like, yeah, we're reading Julius Caesar tonight, and I'm playing Julius Caesar. My dad was like, doesn't a guy have to play Caesar? And I was like, Dad, gender is irrelevant for Shakespeare. Men played all the parts originally. And he was like, why? And I was like, because women weren't allowed to be actors. And he was like, why? And I was like, I don't know, Dad. Women weren't allowed to do anything. And he was like, and so then we move on with the conversation. Like, my mom's there, and we're talking, and then like 10 minutes pass, and he's just like, so you're telling me when they did Romeo and Juliet back then, that was two men? And I was like, yes. Yeah. And he was like, but one of them was supposed to be I'm like, I don't understand.
What are you missing here?
I'm like, one wore a dress. The bookworm said, I thought the most ridiculous part of She's the Man was when she convinces all the guys to use tampons. That would have been the #1 giveaway, that she was a girl in a fucking. Well, that's the thing too, is in She's the Man, she's wearing a wig. She's not. You've seen?
I haven't seen She's the Man. But if she's wearing a wig, then like
she doesn't get a haircut. She wears a fucking wig the whole time, and I'm like, and it's not a good one. Like, they had a Hollywood budget, and I'm like, Viola committed. She got a haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
My gender is so fluid, so that doesn't work nowadays. But back then, I think it's so funny that we had such strict gender rules that all a woman had to do was get a haircut and wear pants, and everyone was like, "A man!" Like when she was,
which is interesting, because then while it's interesting at the time that it's published, then like later on, like now it kind of becomes a critique of those social standards.
It makes you wonder too if because people are really judgmental nowadays of trans women, like, and I've read stuff that like trans women say they have a harder time passing for straight people or cisgender people than trans men, just because of like this, like it's apparently just like, you know, because bone structure is so different. So I wonder if like back in the day, you know, if it worked as easily the other way, like if men wore wigs if like trans women wore men's and wigs and dresses, if it also would have been so easy to fool everybody, because in everyone's mind, the rules of gender presentation were set in stone. I guess people would overlook it, because in the movie, like Viola, like had very soft feminine features, like even with a haircut, like it was pretty clear, and she had like an
comparing it to like her brother, like her features are so much softer, and
she was very petite, and she had an hourglass figure, and no one, and again, like that's just, you know, she was this cis woman, and so I wondered when we were watching it if, because again, I don't know if back then if it would have gone the other way too. I would suspect like it probably would have.
Yeah, I suspect it would as well, as like because at the beginning they do like that whole dance where it's like the routine of their twins and I think that like works to show that like they look very similar, and then they like pull off the mustache and
that people assume, like back then, whatever gender you're telling them, people assume.
They were like, oh, it's two women, oh, it's two men, oh my god,
because the rules, like there isn't really rules for gender presentation anymore, which is good. But like I would think, yes, like there's this graphic novel I highly recommend everyone called The Prince and the Dressmaker.
Oh, I remember you recommending that.
Yeah, it's about a prince who he's not trans, he's a cis man, but he likes to play with he likes to cross dress in feminine gender presentation, and he likes to just like he's to him he's like not doing drag, and he doesn't even really consider it cross dressing. He just likes to do some like go out and like present feminine gender traits, but obviously that means when he goes out he's letting everyone think he's a woman, but in his head it's not like he's like, oh, I'm pretending to be a woman right now. He just likes to like wear dresses and present feminine traits and feminine energy, but he passes everywhere he goes as a woman, because in everyone's mind it takes place during like an alternate version of like 18th century France. It's Austin said, I love that one. Bridget, you should read it. Yeah, it's really good. And it's just everyone believes that he's a woman because, again, the rules were so strict. Like, and I always find that, again, like it's one of those things where that probably wasn't funny or ironic when this came out, but now it is. And I always think it's weird then when people try to do modern Twelfth Night because, like, I was in a play when I was 15. That is a modern 12th Night called All Shook Up. It's a musical that's just Elvis music. It sounds, it's as stupid as it sounds. And it's the same thing. And this girl just dresses like a guy. And again, like, it's just fucking dumb because there is no dressing like a guy anymore. Like things like dresses are obviously still seen as really gendered. But like you put on pants and a shirt and no one's going to be like, how could that ever be a woman?
It's like
I'm wearing pants and a shirt right now. And
me too. Wow.
Everyone still knew I was a woman.
No, I really thought you were a man there for a second, Molly. I don't know.
Like,
I don't know
probably transitioning because she's not wearing the dress. Yeah, I hate when people try to do a modern plot like this because it.
Yeah,
and like with the changing. Mrs. Doubtfire, where he gets like full
that's the only one where it works.
I love the joke in that. Like, I know some people think it's problematic now, but I still think it's funny when he comes to get his friends who are makeup artists help him, and he's like, "Can you make me a woman?" And his friend's like, "Honey, I'm so happy for you." Like, he thinks he's saying that he's trans.
Yeah.
But what I think makes that funny is that his friend thinks that and is not phased at all. He's just
like, okay.
Like, because that came out a long time ago. But anyway, I've harped on that for a while.
I think that's like the only situation where it works. Like, he went all in.
He went in. You got to go all in. That's why I think, like, I'm trying to think of if there's anything else.
Yeah, because like in a lot of the modern like tropes, they're just like, and then I cut my hair and put on like bitch standards that like that's not all you can do. But if you go like all in with like makeup and everything, like he had like how they like do like that.
Because like one of the defining makes like chin and like your jawbones women we just.
But you can do makeup to like.
It's like, so I watch a lot of cosplayers who will be like making a story between two people on TikTok and they're both the characters, and this one girl's great and she does all this makeup to make it look like she has a much more defined like male looking jaw. I'm not trying to say that like that's maybe because trans people exist, but just that's what we as a society think. Because in Mrs. Doubtfire, he wears a full bodysuit that's different. He gets like prosthetics. He wears different
and then like just like I think day adaptations are gonna try and do something like that. They need to go all in.
You wonder if Shakespeare like realized how ridiculous, because this is not the only play where this happens. Like Cymbeline does it too, and I wonder if he was aware of how stupid that was, that all women had to do was wear pants to pass, and maybe he was trying to like, because he was really smart and everything commentary, so I wouldn't put it past him.
Wait a second.
Is there anything else about the plot you want to talk about?
I think a lot of like shows nowadays are like really good at doing that.
Yeah, it's that like
Stranger Things or something like that.
He was very forward in that writing style of everything comes together in the end of like all the people and like the A
plot, the B plot, and the C plot.
Yeah, and it's like that thing. I'm trying to think of like another modern comedy that does that, where like all the different characters. Well, okay, it's not Stranger Things season.
And it's
that's
like what I was thinking about too. Yeah,
all just like crash together is funny, and
because like that's like the final moments, and you're like, and now it's kind of like also if you look at the MCU, like bumping into each other, and then like in the end they all come together, and you're like,
could argue he was probably. It's a very small group of people you're following. It's never like. You're never like, and here's 20 folks coming into, you know what I mean?
Probably the first person to have like different plots at the same time.
Shakespeare shared universe. It's like MCU.
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Yeah. Because like,
I like to believe they're all happening in the same universe.
Exactly.
Like, the two. So you want to talk about themes?
I kind of think we touched on that when we talked about like the
gender bending
and gender and stuff like that. So I think that is really interesting that Shakespeare explored that.
Yeah, considering his gender bending a lot.
Yeah.
And like I think because I can't think because people, unless it's like written into the story that has to play a part. Like for example, legally blonde. That needs to be
a man.
Well, like, because I was saying is like Alex, I said to my sister that she was like, oh, is your dream role now Lydia Dietz in Beetlejuice? And I was like, that would be really fun, but it's actually Beetlejuice. And she was like, really? And I was like, Alex Brayman said like that so doesn't matter because nothing in the plot is like dictative of that. And Shakespeare was like really
since he's dead and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean he's a demon. Like and nothing nothing they say has to do with him being a guy, and gender didn't matter since especially all guys were putting on the plays, and then like to this day
and they had to portray feminine roles as well.
Like to this day, any gender and any race can play all the parts.
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't matter. Like, and I've seen people still try to get like so gatekeeping about what race and stuff the people playing it are, and it's like, dude, no one cares.
It doesn't matter. It actually does matter. Like that's what I thought. Like, because I also thought about the gender, obviously, like when I was doing Taming the Shrew, because like that was really
the genders. You did,
yeah, because that's really important.
Yeah, yours mattered because you
man and woman.
Commentary on sexism, and that's the thing. If sexism or like you know like, but you know there's that thing where even historical fiction like Hamilton's a rainbow casts, and so like yeah, it'll definitely be different if you're doing something like you know a 12 Years a Slave. I think the races of the characters it's gonna matter.
Just a little bit.
Like you know but that's because it's a part of the story. Whereas like Hamilton. Yeah. It was just classism, like nothing about the story had to do with what race everybody was. And I remember Lin-Manuel Miranda said, like, when Ron Chernow, who wrote the biography it's based on, came to the first rehearsal, he was understandably, like, innately surprised because, you know, you would just assume they were going to cast everybody white to look like the founding fathers. But then he thought it was really cool that they had actively chosen not to do that.
Yeah.
And I think Shakespeare was really forward with like it doesn't matter what you know, because it was all men playing it, but that
means that like in the future all women could play it, and
he wrote it in a way where it doesn't matter what time period they're in, it doesn't matter what race they are, it doesn't matter what gender they are, and it doesn't matter what age they are because like you see high schools and stuff putting this stuff on, and like there's summer camps where like elementary school kids learn to put stuff on. Like there's the geeky blonde who does condensed Shakespeare on YouTube. Like she said she was like 9 or something when she did her first Shakespeare play because again like, it doesn't matter, and I think that's really brilliant. And very few people have like I would argue like the MCU. It doesn't really matter what gender everybody is. Like, you could switch that stuff up, and in the comics it does switch a lot.
Yeah. And I think it's also interesting because, like, I went to a Shakespeare in the Park, and before the show, they had this, like, mini show before, and we were seeing Hamlet, I believe. Wow.
We were seeing Hamilton.
We were seeing Hamilton in the park, you know.
Pure tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah. But we were seeing Hamlet, I believe. And I had gone, because over, like, in the back of the park, there was a little area where there was, like, the kids' show. And before the play, they put on, 3 people put on a performance of Hamlet and explained the whole plot beforehand, but, like, in a condensed version using modern language. So it's like, Hamlet, I'm your dad.
So kids get it, yeah.
Yeah. So then, like, the kids would all understand. And my mom didn't go to it, but I went to it because then I had a really fun time. It was really good. And then, like, actually watching the show, I understood everything because I had seen that. And my mom was like, I really should have gone to that because I don't understand.
Like, I don't know what they said.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like, it's just like in the other version where they were doing this. And then Hamlet was like, no, Dad, I'm not listening to you. I'm going to go.
Like, have you seen The Lion King?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, I think it's good to, like, get kids involved early. And, like, it shows that it's, like, Shakespeare's for all ages, which is interesting.
It's like newsflash, guys. I don't know if you knew, but Shakespeare was smart.
Yeah, exactly.
I know we say it every time. We're like, hey, I got a hot take. I think Shakespeare, pretty intelligent guy.
He kind of knew what he was doing. Kind of a good writer.
I think he made some commentary. It's like,
yeah, I think he might have been pretty good at this writing thing.
I'm going to argue that maybe his stuff is timeless since it's been hundreds and hundreds of years and we're still reading it. I dated a guy who was a director. I use that term real loosely. And I remember he was like, do you read plays? And I was like, not a lot, no. And he was like, why not? I was like, well, because plays are meant to be seen. And I was like, I read a lot of Shakespeare. And he was like, oh, Shakespeare is so overdone. And I was like, no, there's no such fucking thing as Shakespeare being overdone. First of all, there's 37 plays. So, like,
there's a lot going on there.
And he was like, oh, like, I hate this play and I hate this play. And I'm like, I mean, no one likes every play. They're not all going to be bangers. Like, but yeah, it's like, there's always those people who will say that. And like, obviously there's the dumbass Oxfordians who are like, he wrote them. And it's like, no, this poor guy was smart and talented. And he wrote these amazing plays that transcend time. And it's not some woke take to think otherwise. Whenever someone's like, oh, Shakespeare's not that great, I'm like, no, you're just an idiot. Like, Austin, wait, Shakespeare was smart.
I know. I'm going to be out there. Okay, guys, I might be.
This is the hill I will die on, guys.
This might be some tea. I know many people don't agree.
Unpopular opinion. Shakespeare, pretty smart cookie. I think he had an idea or two up there.
Yeah.
The Bookworm said, have y'all seen Shakespeare in Love? I have not.
I don't think I have.
It's what Gwyneth Paltrow won an Oscar for.
No.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I've seen.
Maybe we'll have to add it to our list.
I've seen Something Rotten, the musical, where that song "God I Hate Shakespeare" is from.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
And then they have the song where it's hard to be the bard. That's
hard to be.
It's hard. It's really, really hard.
So incredibly hard.
And then he has that song where they're at Shakespeare in the Park, and it's like it's a concert. And he's like at the mic, and he's like, "Shall I compare thee?" And he holds it down, and they're like, "To a Somerset." That musical is a great commentary on how successful he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, you have fun dialogue.
Yeah. I thought for this part we could talk about how Mariah tricks Malvolio. Okay. My brain, like, all of the names eventually just run together, so I'm just like.
Yeah, Shakespeare loved everybody having names that started with the same letters.
Yeah, because like thinking Malvolio, I'm like Mercutio. I'm like, no, that's not it. But,
like, how many people's names started with a C in Julius Caesar?
But how she, like, there's that line, "Be not afraid of greatness."
Famous things that is quoted way out of context. Like, I first heard that when I was a kid in The Princess Diaries, in a letter her dad left her, and it's meant to be like really encouraging of her to go become the Princess of Genovia.
Yeah.
And it's used as this really encouraging, beautiful quote, but within the context of the play,
it's not that at all. It's totally like,
it's her being a manipulative bitch.
Like, oh my God, you're so great.
It's like some people are born great, some people achieve greatness, and others have greatness still rust upon them. Well, it's like there's that line.
None of the above.
And they do that a lot in Shakespeare. Like,
they do like the quote, and they're like, it's quality.
Like, there's the one from Midsummer's Night Dream that is, though she be but little, she is fierce. And people take that out of context, like it's this woke feminist quote, and it's not. It's just like someone's about to fight somebody, and he's like, "Whoa, though she be but little, she's fierce." Like,
yeah.
And then from Caesar, from last month, there's the one where it's like, "Cowards die many deaths in their life. The valiant taste of death only once." Like, again, that's not. It's just him being arrogant, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's fun to like kind of see those quotes that we know from just having them in like pop culture. And then to see them in, like, where they came from and being like, well, this isn't how I pictured this scene.
I'd never read this play before. I saw it in high school, and we didn't pay attention. And we were 15. We didn't care. And to be fair, that company I saw did a bad job. But, when I got to the part in the play where that quote was, I was like, oh, shit, this is the context.
Yeah.
Because they don't even say it. It's in a letter. Like, it's not even a good speech that somebody gives. Like,
it's not like him rising up and
it sounds like a real
you imagine it kind of like if
these colonies
like, this is my destiny.
Yeah, like some are born great. You picture it like someone talking to Hercules or something.
Yeah,
like, and then he breaks into "I can go the distance."
Instead, it's like, oh, he's going to really eat this up. He's going to think he's great.
Yeah, it's just manipulative. It's just her, like, stroking someone's ego. I wash my hands, guys. It's okay that I'm touching my face. I just want to give that.
So I thought that was interesting that, like, I talked about last time that so many of his quotes are, like, taken out of context.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The podcast, What You Will, which is the Shakespeare podcast, is really good. And they talk about that a lot, of how many quotes, like obviously there's some quotes that are meaningful. Like one of my favorites, again, Macbeth, and its false face must hide what the false heart doth know. And that's what Macbeth says to Lady Macbeth before she goes back out to fool the king. And so he's basically like, you got to pretend everything's fine so they don't know what our nefarious deeds are. But people act like it's like you got to pretend like you're not in love with somebody or something. And it's like, no, that's not what it means.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a quote that we don't take out of context that's really famous, other than like anything from Romeo and Juliet. Like those are all pretty in context because they're just meant to be romantic.
I guess like maybe that quote from Julius Caesar knew like the context, but still like the meaning is still there.
Yeah, like I get the meaning. I don't agree.
And it's still in like a nice, meaningful moment, I think.
Yeah, like I don't agree with what Cassius thinks.
Yeah.
But what he thinks makes sense is like saying like, you know, based on the current state of America, as being like, it's basically like saying people who say, oh, like it's part of God's plan or everything happens for a reason. It's like, no, God granted people free will. If you believe in religion, which I do, I get that everyone doesn't, but like, okay, like, you know, the Catholic belief is that God granted us free will. Yeah. So saying, oh, it's part of God's plan or everything happens for a reason is not true. It's the fault isn't in our stars, it's in ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that like, I think it holds up from the book to,
and that's where, you know, The Fault in Our Stars got its name, is because he has that line, which they didn't keep in the movie, which made no sense, where he said the fault isn't in ourselves, it's in our stars, because it's like, yeah, they made no choice in having cancer. And so, yeah that's probably one that I really, because it's all just written purposely romantic.
And everyone knows Romeo and Juliet.
There's something from Hamlet that we're like not remembering, because I feel like a lot of Hamlet stuff is within context. I mean, everything the witches say, like, it's crazy how double, toil and trouble, fire, burning, cauldron, bubble.
Iconic now.
That's crazy. When I grew up, I had no idea that was from Shakespeare, and it's so known. And toil and trouble is just like such a saying for like Halloween, and that's crazy. And it's because this guy, I'm gonna say it, guys, he was smart.
Crazy. I don't know how you could say something like that. That's so controversial.
You heard it here first. Controversial live show.
Yeah.
The last thing you have on here is the movie.
But I think we touched a lot on the movie.
Yeah, we talked
about a good adaptation.
For if you guys who didn't watching now or who watched this later who didn't watch along with us, we watched the 1996 adaptation with Helena Bonham Carter, and it was really good. I highly recommend.
Yeah.
I usually love straight movie adaptations because these were written to be done on the stage, and there are obviously differences. But I think they did a great job.
They did a really good job, yeah.
That adaptation was hilarious. The guy who played the fool, I don't know his name, but he
did a great job, and I think all of them did a good job, like selling their part.
They were all great. William Carter was fantastic.
He was great.
Yeah, like everyone was good. Like there was no weak performance, but I would say her and the fool were definitely like just knocked it out of the park.
And like at the start, you kind of think, okay, I don't know about this, but then you get into it.
When we got the first 10 minutes in, I was like, Bridget, this is dumb. I was like,
Molly was not here for it, and I was like, we gotta hold out. And then,
I know, but like it started so campy, and I was like, but then it like.
But it's because Shakespeare didn't write that part.
Yeah, that's because it starts with her heading
them on the ship.
Yeah, it's because
so they weren't ready because that wasn't what Shakespeare did.
It starts with the shipwreck has already happened and everything.
Yeah.
I do think like Shakespeare plays have this weird touchiness between siblings that I don't know how they did it back then. Like I don't know. But like when her and her brother I was like, listen, even if I thought my brother was dead and then I met him again, like I'd hug him, but I wouldn't be like. And then in the end, when they're making out with their spouse,
and then they're holding hands. I don't know about that.
My brother doesn't even like talking about his boyfriend around me, and he doesn't want to hear about my romantic life either. So like, there's no way in hell that's happening. And so,
I don't have a brother. However, I feel like that would be uncomfortable.
Yeah, like the way they were so touchy with each other, I was like, this is weird. I was like, they're siblings.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But it was a choice. They made a choice.
You know, and they stuck with it. I don't think it was a Shakespeare choice. I think that was the director.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely a director choice. Because, like, Shakespeare just gives the words.
Austin just said, "Oh my God, Molly, that shirt." Yeah, it says
Yes.
It's one of my, like, dozens of pieces.
He also said, I need the 20-page research paper proving he's smart.
We're going to write it. We're going to get it published. It's
by the end of the Bard Book Club in, like, 2 years.
It's going to be as divisive as like, the Federalist Papers were when they came out.
Yeah, it'll be like, oh, wow.
People are going to talk about it.
Like, we plan, and we're like, we'll write like 5, you know, and then we start writing, and then
we're gonna, like, nail it to the door of universities like Martin Luther did with the Protestant Manifesto. We're gonna be like, hear ye, Shakespeare was every that on our Twitter. I need the 20-page research paper proving he's smart.
Every person who decides to take Shakespeare course will need to read our paper.
The thing is, there is a huge group of people who don't think he was smart. Like, there's people who think he wrote these because they don't believe poor people could be smart, which, hello, classism. The second anyone says he didn't write them, I'm like, oh, so you're a classist. Like, and
but
then
also, like, I know there's, like, the argument that he, like, stole the stories, but even then, in our world, there's so much fan fiction.
And, like, someone who's currently writing a fan fiction.
Well, like, he made a play, like, it was his own play. Maybe he took the story.
It's
but you can call that a retelling, yeah.
And you're like, yeah, Romeo and Juliet is based off of, like, the legend of Tristan and Isolde. But that's fine. Stop it. And, like,
there are retellings of Cinderella all over the place. And
like Midsummer Night's
Dream. They didn't make up that story. Like,
Midsummer Night's Dream is based on Greek mythology. Julius Caesar, all the histories are real stories. But the thing is, like, that's, like, the world is full of so many retellings. I always think it's weird when people, like, cherry pick what is okay to be a retelling. It's like, bitch, you didn't make that up. Like, Marissa Meyer, like, half her career has been off of writing retellings. Like, same with Sarah J. Maas. Like, Disney just recently stopped making the princess movies retellings.
Right?
And, like,
started diving into other things.
Based on an amalgamation of stuff. Like, Frozen isn't the Snow Queen, but it is a bunch of, like, you know, Danish mythology. And Moana isn't one set myth, it's a bunch. But, like, for the longest time,
coming from somewhere.
Yeah, for the longest time, it was like
getting inspiration from certain places.
Someone said Professor Piper from Fangirl because she invalidates fan fiction.
True. I mean, I'm reading Fangirl now.
I'm writing fan fiction right now. Like,
more
people are reading it than anything I got legitimately for. I laugh about that every day. When I check the stats, I'm like, wow. I'm like, maybe a dozen people have read my poetry that's professionally published. And 600 people were like, Beetlejuice fanfic? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Fanfiction can be valid.
I think that's interesting, too, if it's believable. Because, like, most fan fiction is not believable.
Yeah.
Like, you write something where you studied enough that you can make it sound like this is feasible, that it could be set in that world.
Yeah.
The thing is, too, is, like, we all know I like 50 Shades. And, like, the thing is, that started as a Twilight fan fiction, but it just kind of morphed into, like, a retelling. And Twilight has elements of Jane Eyre and Rebecca. And so, like, when you see the first 50 Shades movie or you read it, you can see the beats where it clearly took the story from Twilight.
Yeah.
But in the second book, like, it's its own story and everything. She just, like, got the inspiration from an existing story. And Twilight takes inspiration from, like, so many other vampire stories and Jane Eyre and Rebecca. Like, so there's, like, that saying that, like, there's no original stories anymore. Like, everybody.
That's facts.
It's facts. There's, like, 5 stories and we've been retelling them since the beginning of time. Like,
I mean, there's no other options.
I love a retelling. If it's a fairy tale,
if they do a good job, like, I'm here for it.
Like, I read that book recently and you were like, what's it about? And I was like, Les Mis in space. And that's all I needed to hear. And I was like,
I got the story idea in my mind.
And I always think it's fun to see
like what different authors do with it, because, like, I think in Fangirl they might have said this, but I can't remember where I heard it. But if you give, like, 20 authors the same prompt, they're not going to do the same thing with it. They're all going to do their own thing.
Really, like, and poetry, like, as someone who studied poetry, like, there will be entire concept collections of poetry where all the poems are doing something. And even something like the Odyssey, the Odyssey didn't fucking invent those Greek myths. Like they were there. Yeah, it's like Harry Potter takes very heavily from King Arthur and Lord of the Rings. And then like and then Rick Riordan. I'll say it, guys. J.K. Rowling walked so Rick Riordan could run.
It's true.
It's like that TikTok. She fucking strutted that runway, honey, so that Peppa could run. It's because like the Percy Jackson series, it's narrated in first person, but like Percy and Harry's origin are very much like parallel. And that doesn't suddenly make Percy Jackson like a less amazing.
No, like obviously, like Percy Jackson is still like a great adaptation, and like he takes inspiration from Greek myths.
Yeah,
you can't say it doesn't, because like all of the stories are involved with that, but it's taking his own version of it, which makes it really fun. And like I don't think it could have got like I think Rick Riordan's even said I don't think my book would have gotten published.
Well, he's said it many times.
Harry Potter has.
He gets pretty irked, and I agree when people try. Like, if you don't like J.K. Rowling and what she says as a person, like, okay, that's valid. But when people then try to equate that to suddenly Harry Potter's not good, it's just objective.
Yeah, then like that's not fair.
Like, people will try to like hype Rick Riordan up over her, and I remember it was like a year or two ago when people were doing that, and he was like, "No," he was like, and even with like the Hunger Games, like every dystopian like story that happened after, like. Not Divergent, but but like every other like main thing that happened after that was like, oh yeah, this happened because J.K.
Well, like, and there are things before that like kind of set up the president, but like book coming out. Like
Phantom of the Opera, the musical, that's not the original story. It was a book, and then it was this, and then it was that, and it's so like Shakespeare. Some of them were inspired by their things, but there's a big difference between like inspired and then fucking copyright infringement. Yeah. It's not plagiarism. Like High School Musical is Romeo and Juliet, guys. I've said it before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so our closing, if you take anything away from this month's live show, guys, it's that Shakespeare was smart. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends, tell everyone, tell your family.
Sing it from the hilltops, guys. Yep. Shakespeare was smart.
Exactly.
All right, I think we've about wrapped it up.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us to talk about
our May choice is Henry IV Part 1, and the adaptation we're going to watch is My Own Private Idaho, and we haven't picked the dates yet for everything. That will be
check us out on Twitter at BardBook and
@Bard_book.
Yes.
And we will be announcing this weekend.
And you also check us out on Goodreads. We have a Goodreads page as well.
Yeah, so we'll be announcing everywhere this weekend when the live read-through will happen, when the movie night watch along on Twitter, and when this discussion will happen. And if you're interested in being in the read-through that we do every month, you can DM us or @tweet us on Twitter. So thank you guys for joining
with us. We hope to see you again next month.
Bye.